Hey guys, welcome to the Smile the Leather Cricket Podcast where we discuss all things cricket from an average Joe's perspective. I'm your host Adit. Joining me is my co-host Gaurav, and we are going to be discussing the three Boxing Day Test matches for the year 2023, magnificent ones, the iconic win for India at the MCG, the run fest at Centurion, and the nail biter at Mount Maungani. So, without any further ado, let's get straight into it. So, Gaurav, we'll start off with the big one at the MCG. And before I come to you, let's just give our listeners a brief overview of what happened in the game for anyone that did not follow. So, Australia in the first innings scored 195 with Labuschagne top scoring with a score of 48, and Mr. Reliable for India with the ball, Bumrah taking 4 for 56. India in the first innings with a reply of 326 with a career defining century from Rahane and Stark and Lyon taking 3 wickets each. That gave India a lead of 131 runs going into the second innings, where Australia got bundled out for 200, and then India finished off the game, winning the game by 8 wickets. So, Gaurav, like from Adelaide, going from 36 all out, how do you pull off a performance like this for Team India?
This one is a win to remember. This would go down as one of the greatest test wins, and the reason is no one expected them to win. I mean, let aside win, just give them a fight. Because even the last time when they beat Australia in Australia, with the absence of Smith and Warner, you felt like India do have the upper hand, and they managed to do that. So it was not that big a surprise. Of course, it was a great achievement, but this time around, especially with Kohli not being there. If it was in Indian conditions, you'd back your players, the other players to come good, and even against the toughest of teams, to come up with a win. But beating Australia in Australia with the absence of your senior players, Kohli and Shami, let's not forget him. He's been one of the premier fast bowlers of the world. Great. I mean, just goes on to show the character of the team. And Rahane, in fact, mentioned that they indeed wanted to bat first after that all out of 36. So, also goes on to show what their state of mind was. It was positive, and they didn't want to be in the back foot about winning the toss and opting to bowl first, thinking about what could be the case if we indeed bat first and the horrors of the first test match might come back, but that did not happen. So yeah, look, this Indian team in the last 3 or 4 years has done that pretty often. If, even in 2017 against Australia, the game against in Pune, if I remember, they lost the test match, and then they won the one test match in Bengaluru, which was a very close fought one. Again in against England when they lost in Lords, but then went on to win in Trent Bridge, if I remember. And there have been other even in South Africa. So yeah, this is not the team that would lose 4-0 that happened in 2011 and in Australia and England in the away tours, which would give throw in the towels very soon if there's a performance in the first test which would not go their way. But this team and in absence of Kohli was I think magnificent.
So you spoke about throwing in the towel, and they definitely didn't do that after the 36 all out from Adelaide. So let's start with your batting performance. What did you think about their batting performance in both innings?
Yeah, like we mentioned in our earlier podcast as well, that it was about their batting. Their bowlers have been up to the mark in most of the games, in most of the test matches. If their batting comes good, they always have the possibility to win the test match, be it in any condition. Uh, Crossing 300 was great. Ajinkya Rahane, I mean, so many questions raised over him, but he went on to show how great a player he is. And in it, any game where he plays, where the mindset is not to be too cautious. Is a treat to watch. And whenever you see Rahane being overcautious, that's where the problem comes. But here, uh, along with building partnerships, he was able to put away the bad balls. And yeah, I think that laid the foundation. And Rishabh Pant's 29 was as big a contribution as you would consider of Rahane's or Jadeja's 57. I think he was the one who kind of changed the momentum in that first inning, because if you look when he came on to bat, the match was pretty much in balance. India was still trailing, and he kind of uh, ate into the deficit. And from then on, it was all about Jadeja and Rahane feasting on to the bowlers, because the new ball was still to come, and the bowlers were tired. So it was an all-round performance that they would be delighted of. Not to forget the young man Shubman Gill. We all remember there was a kid back in 91, 18-year-old kid who kind of stamped his authority into Test cricket, and went on to play 200 Test games. And again in 2011, Virat Kohli, that 100 in Adelaide, which uh, made him a permanent member of the Test 11 as well. Before that, questions were raised against him as well in Test cricket. Shubman Gill looks like a player for the future. And yeah, this all in all, they would be pretty satisfied of their batting.
For sure. I mean, starting right off at the top, Shubman Gill, I don't think he looked like he was playing in his debut test match. That was a wonderful 45 in the first innings. He looked good all around the wicket, playing very nice shots. And he also has the cut shot, which is very important for wickets in Australia, where the ball bounces a lot. So that was a good. I mean, I really enjoyed his first innings batting. Only little thing I think Australia might target going into the next game would be when he sort of doesn't commit to the pull shot. He has a sort of a half pull, which he kind of the ball goes in the air a little bit, and he also takes his eyes off the ball. But then on the other hand, when he commits to that pull shot, it looks really, really good. So I think that's probably one little thing he might want to work on going into the next game, and I'm sure he will. Mayank Agarwal, though, he looks to be having similar problems as Prithvi Shaw. He's a little bit late on the ball, and he's struggling just a slight bit over there. Also, there was a comparison of his batting stance from 2018 to his current batting stance, and there's a considerable difference in his back lift and also his body position. Maybe that's the effect of the limited overs game and him wanting to score quicker there, and that's sort of crept into his test game as well. um, so Mayank Agarwal, you have Rohit Sharma coming in. I think he takes Mayank Agarwal's spot right at the top. Coming down the order, Pujara, he hasn't been in the greatest of forms. He's been found wanting in certain areas. And from 2018, where he dominated in Australia, I think Australia has bowled just that little bit wider to him, and they've been reaping the benefits there. Also, something to note for Pujara in second innings batting since 2018 in away tours, he's at about 16 or 17 innings, and he averages the same 16 or 17. So he has a little bit of an issue there. But yeah, nothing to worry about for Pujara, I would think, because he's proved it time and again that uh, he's India's wall after Rahul Dravid, and I think he will continue being that. Rahane's century, though, I mean, that is a career defining knock. For him, and in fact he did mention that he still rates his 100 at the Lords higher than this one. But I think given the scenario that India were in, coming from the last game, absence of Kohli, Rohit Sharma, Mohammad Shami, you have all these superstars missing out, and then to come up with that knock, I think it really just showed what a class act he actually is. As you said very rightly, Rishabh Pant's 29 was extremely valuable, as he sort of took Rahane along with him, and Rahane's scoring rate up the ante as well once Pant got in. Vihari, he hasn't impressed too far with the bat so far, and I think when you have someone like KL Rahul on the bench, you might want to bring him in, especially since Vihari hasn't been contributing with the ball as well, since he hasn't been needing to. Um, and then Jadeja's 57. That was a very resilient 57. The way he played, I mean, he brought out his defensive game, did right what was needed for the team. And over the last couple of years, he's really showing that he's got the potential with the bat as well, which is, and that straight away puts him in terms of all rounders with the Ben Stokes and the Shakib Al Hassans of the world. So all in all, I think India's batting was brilliant. To get 326 in that first innings and get a lead of 131 was extremely crucial, especially on this Melbourne pitch, which wasn't like the pitch that we've had for the last few years. There was a little bit more for the bowlers, a little bit for the spinners as well. So it was a very good cricket wicket overall. And that's what I thought. Now, let's move on to India's bowling. What do you make of that bowling performance? I mean, they have Australia right in their palms. And what are your thoughts?
Look, India's bowling has uh, been the number one bowling lineup, at least in Test cricket, for the past 2 years. I'm talking about home and away, with their performances in all the conditions. You talk about when they toured West Indies, England, even South Africa and Australia, and in this Test match especially, they looked better than the Australian pace attack, and that is some achievement when you talking about guys like Stark, Hazelwood, and Cummins, and Lyon as well. So yeah, but it's the bowlers who win you the Test matches, and that's what they did again, bowling Australia out under 200 after losing the toss. If Australia indeed managed to get over 350, it was Australia would be the one who would dictate the terms of the game and not India. So great job on their part. And it was, if you see the second day, that's when the overcast conditions were there, and but in the first day it was sunny. Obviously, as you mentioned, there was some help for the bowlers, but once the ball got soft, they were patient enough to just bowl in good overs, not give away too many runs, and eventually they got the wickets. You talk about Ashwin, talk about Bumrah. Ashwin, in the first day of the game, he really managed to have its impact on the game. And Bumrah is, I mean, he's uh, on the verge of becoming one of India's greatest Test fast bowlers already, with the kind of performance he's putting in every game that he plays. So you got to give it to them. Even when Umesh Yadav got injured, it didn't affect them at all. The second innings, with the four bowlers, they managed to continuously put pressure. That also the run rate that they, or in fact, Australia were scoring less than two per over, which has not happened a lot. I think this century, the last six tests against Australia, against India, Australia have been scoring at around 2.61, which is the lowest in this century. Just goes on to show that they've been putting pressure continuously, uh, and it eventually gives you the wickets, um, which at crucial points of the game. Talk about Mohammad Siraj as well. Apart from his first spell, he looked pretty settled. He's a special bowler in the sense that he's tall, which normally you don't get from Indian cricket. So he would always be effective in Australian conditions because of his height, great wrist position as well. And once the bowl is soft, that's when I think he was really effective, when he was able to get the ball back into the right handers. That Cameron Green dismissal in the first innings, I think that was brilliant. Even in the second innings, I think when he got Labuschagne out, caught at leg slip, that was good. He looked like he belonged for his first test. So all in all, a great bowling performance.
For sure. And I think, as you rightly mentioned, India's bowlers really deserve the credit there, especially the injuries that they've had with Ishan Sharma, Mohammad Shami, and now Umesh Yadav. It really tested the depth of Indian bowling, and they've come really, really good. Ashwin has been a great surprise for me. I think he's bowled really well in this tour, and he's a thinking cricketer. He would have learned a lot from his previous tours to Australia, and he's really come good this tour. I think he's made Smith his bunny at this point. It just looks like Smith is not comfortable against Ashwin at all. And to think that Smith used to average 116 odd against Ashwin before this tour, and to see him picking up Smith like it's his everyday wicket, it's just great to see. But yeah, all in all, great bowling performance from India. Bumrah, as usual, Mr. Reliable, just gets the job done every single time. Siraj had a great debut. I think his impressive figures as well. So, all in all, a great bowling performance. Now that Umesh Yadav is injured, who do you see replacing him?
Natarajan has been added to the squad, but I think it will be either of Saini or Shardul Thakur, because Natarajan has not had uh, experience of playing 4-day games in domestic cricket. So I think either of them will get the nod ahead of him, and I think which is the right call as well. But I think Umesh Yadav is a big miss. Shami, Shant, and uh, Umesh won't be there. So this would be really kind of hampering their plans, because this just uh, creates more problems for the captain. You know how bowler would react at certain situations, but when you have your premium fast bowlers being injured after every game, it's a slight problem. Although now that Rohit Sharma is back in the squad, you see a case for him instead of someone like Mayank Agarwal, or do you see him batting in the middle order at number 5 in place of Hanuma Vihari?
I think Rohit Sharma slots in at the top for me, especially since Mayank Agarwal has deficiencies in his technique. It's been exposed, and Australia are going to keep targeting that. Unless something changes drastically in his approach to batting in the next few days, I think they should go with Rohit Sharma at the top, and probably look at bringing in KL Rahul to replace Hanuman Vihari. I think Shubman Gill gets to keep his place. He did really, really well at the top of the order, and you don't want to shuffle him. I think, especially since he's just getting into the test side, he's done well at the top. Might as well keep him at the top. What do you make of India's batting lineup for the next game at the SCG?
Yeah, I'm pretty much with you on this. I think Rohit Sharma fits in straight at the opening slot. I personally I would want KL Rahul to be in the 11th place of Hanuma Vihari, but I don't see them doing them that for this one, because Hanuma Vihari, he played enough balls. I think he managed to stick that partnership with Rahane in the first innings, which was very crucial, but he would be disappointed with the way he got out sweeping against Lion. That was not the shot that was required at that point in time. But as we have been saying time and again, KL Rahul needs to be in the plans. He, even in the test side, he has all the qualities to be successful at this level. So we'll have to wait and see. And just a point on Mayank Agarwal, yeah, as you rightly mentioned, he more than anything, he seems rushed against the faster bowlers, against Shark, and especially you mentioned he was late, and yeah, which actually was surprising after the IPL. He played against some real quick bowlers. So whether it's the Australian conditions, whether it's the bounce, it's surprising because he did pretty well the last time he played at MCG. So yeah, there are some things that needs to be corrected. If you see Ajinkya Rahane's case, from the first test to the second test, especially against Stark, so if, he got out against Stark in the first innings when they took the second new ball at Adelaide. So his feet weren't moving. This time, if you'd see, he would have two different stance against someone like a Pat Cummins, or and then Stark, his front foot was not. So if you see against Pat Cummins, it was pretty much a normal stance that you would have against a right-hander, but then against Stark, he was having his right foot away, so that there's some room to play the ball, and that kind of saves you from uh, LBWs as well. So there are some minor adjustments that he did, and which proved to be effective. That what experience brings to you. About the changes. Rohit Sharma is a definite shoe-in, and so is either of Saini or Thakur. These are not forced changes, but something that is definite going forward for India.
For sure. And now we've spoken about how India have done well with the bat in this game, but their opposition hasn't done so well. So let's have a word about Australia and their overall performance in this test match.
Yeah, the batting, we have been talking a lot. Their batting is a problem. There are not enough quality players, I think. Right at the top, Wade has been doing more than he did all that it was in his control, because he's not an incumbent opener. But the 40 was pretty great. When you talk about Burns, it was surprising right at the beginning that they gave him chance for two test matches, especially his recent record. He's been hardly getting any runs. Um, and even guys like Travis Head and Cameron Green, apart from his second innings, where he scored 45, it looks shaky. And Smith, I mean, now just goes on to show how much Australia are dependent on Smith. We keep talking about how much India are dependent on Kohli, but it is the same with Australia as well. He's been, in all sort of troubles. More than anything, I think he's very indecisive. Right from that New Zealand tour, where Wagner was continuously bouncing him out, and this time India have come up with different plans. But I'm not too worried about Smith's case, because I mean, it just goes on to show even he's human, and in such a long career, you ought to have series where you won't score runs. But I'm backing him to come good. But on the either side of Smith and Labuschagne, there is a problem, and David Warner and Pukowski have been added to the squad. They two slot in straight away, and Matthew Wade goes in place of Travis Head.
Fair point there, but would you also, is there a case for probably Marcus Harris coming in instead of Pukowski? Because I mean, he's just coming off of that injury that he has, and you wouldn't want to probably expose him to this world-class Indian bowling attack at the start of his career.
Yeah, look, Team Payne mentioned right at the beginning that if Pukowski is fit, he'll be the part of the 11 straight away. So and especially with their batting boost that they had, I think if he's fit to play, he'll be part of the 11. And Travis Head, with the way he got out in both the innings, playing balls that he should not have, Matthew Wade goes there. uh, yeah, these are the changes I see. In case either of them are not fit enough to play, I think they'll have Warner even if he's not at 100%, because they're desperate at this moment. Losing a test match at MCG just adds on to the pressure. Had they won this test match, probably they wouldn't have taken the risk. But now Warner would be part of the 11. Yeah, well, you see any other way around?
I think probably there's also a case for Marcus Harris. He was the highest Australian run getter in the 2018 series against India. And purely for the fact that I wouldn't want Pukowski to face this Indian bowling lineup, you would want a little bit of experience at the top. Yes, you're getting in Warner, but you would want a experienced partner as well, because the amount of pressure Australia is in to win this next game, it's going to be huge for them. Um, I think Head he's been getting out the same way too often in the recent past. He just keeps slashing at those deliveries and gets caught out. Um, Probably there would have been a case for maybe Wade and Head in the middle order if Head was getting those runs, because Australia need that cushion. Their batting, I mean, they've hit 200 once in the series, which is something you wouldn't expect of an Australian batting lineup in Australia. Um, but then I think um, Head has to go, and Wade would replace him at his position, and maybe Marcus Harris, or as you say, Pukowski, come in at the top of the order along with David Warner.